It is often said that truth is the first casualty of war, but this is of course a lie. Before war can be embraced, the truth must already have been assassinated. In this, my second video on First World War mysteries, myths, legends and lies, I want to lead into my next video, which will be a look at the spy panic which overtook Britain, especially in the early stages of the war. Some of the stories which emerged were so absurd that it seems hard to believe that anyone took them seriously. So why would anyone swallow so obvious a lie? It is my proposition that the human ability to lie is surpassed only by the human ability to accept a lie and hold it as the truth, despite all evidence to the contrary. All that is required is that the lie supports what we already believe or want to believe, that we feel our self-interests and emotional desires are better served by accepting the lie, and that we are then willing to put these personal desires ahead of everything else. With that done, we can convince ourselves that the lie is veridical and defend it with a clear conscience, usually by simply refusing to countenance that there may be evidence against it, because what was once wrong is now made right in our chosen delusion. I am continually exposed to this when debating the dogmatically religious, and it has taken me some time to understand, I think, what is going on. It was not until I began researching the First World War from the viewpoint of mysteries, myths, legends and lies that the pieces fell into place. If I still have it wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me. In the context of warfare, this is easily understood. For any country to declare war on another requires a pretext. There is a need to convince the population at large that the peaceful trade partner of yesterday has overnight become a threat to everything they hold dear, and that the only solution is a war which they, the population, will have to pay for with their finances, toil, and perhaps even lives, or at least the lives of their loved ones. The just cause of any particular conflict is an issue for debate elsewhere. I'm addressing only the propaganda machine here. Tony Blair took the UK to war against Iraq in 2003, regardless of its merits, based on a lie. This was after George Bush had declared war on an abstract noun in 2001. In the war on terror, "You are either with us or against us," said Bush. And of course he was correct. In wartime, all must be black and white, no room for grey. You cannot have a population wavering when you are committing the country's finances and resources, human and otherwise, towards a conflict that must be won. Anyone who questions the decision is unpatriotic or worse, and the media gets behind the government either because of its inherent bias or because it is carefully fed propaganda which the government knows it will run with. In the USA, eating French fries became unpatriotic, not because they were condemning a generation of kids to a life of grotesque obesity, but because the French had refused to swallow la merde de trop being fed to them by the US and UK governments. Of course, once all the killing is done, the freshly invented enemy of humankind will once again seamlessly slip back to being a normal trading partner. The hate-filled propaganda will be forgotten, and local industry will be encouraged to forge strong links with their newest BFFs. This has happened countless times through history. I think it's called politics. I am being needfully simplistic here, and I realise that our modern Western democracies have a more liberal and free press, and the headlong rush to support those running around with the gas can and matches whilst claiming the last thing that they want is a war is far from universal. But I hope that you will accept that once the majority of the population is on board, any criticism of the government's policy risks the label of unpatriotic behaviour. So how do you convince the people that the town across the border is no longer populated by hard-working, peace-loving human beings like them, but has suddenly become a nest of vipers? How do you convince a country to go to war? A question for you. Why did Great Britain declare war on Germany in 1914? Or, as most of you are American, you might ask yourselves why the USA declared war in 1917. Most people might say that Britain declared war because Germany invaded neutral Belgium, or because Germany invaded France, with whom we had a treaty, or because of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. And these, especially the former, was trumpeted in the British Parliament and national newspapers as a justification for the war. Of course, there is evidence that as recently as 1877, that Britain might have been prepared to allow Germany to march through Belgium in order to stick one on France. And Britain had no written treaty with France, and assassinations were 10 a penny around this time. I'm not arguing that we should not have gone to war. It's a bit late for that debate now anyway. just looking at how the war was sold to the public at home. So for the invasion of Belgium to be a pretext for war, the British Parliament and national press had to collude in a lie to suppress any ambiguities or nuances which might suggest that there was an alternative to war. And the propaganda machine was set to work either directly denouncing the Germans and spreading tales of German atrocities, or, as effectively, allowing rumours of atrocities, which had no basis in fact, to be repeated in the national press and elsewhere unchecked, simply because they served the government's purpose. If you see echoes of this propaganda machine in the creationist apologists you come across, then you're not alone. It was my casual reading of this topic which brought home to me the similarities between wartime propaganda and religious rhetoric. The ability to swallow a lie and regurgitate it as the truth, the need for a simply defined enemy or threat, the demonization of that enemy, the with us or against us attitude, and the conspiracy mentality, which refuses to countenance any dissent, refuses to apply reason and logic to any argument against the cause, and labels any dissenter as an enemy sympathiser. And it was this connection, added to the centenary of the outbreak of the First World War, which made me consider this series worthwhile. Please let me know what you think, especially if you disagree. Dissenters are welcome here. And thank you, as always, for watching.